Way. Hello, Dawn DeLuisi, Mary Beth Doucette. I'm pleased to be sharing this information with you today about one of the A Shared Future research projects that's based in Mi'kmaq territory in the district of Unama'ki, Cape Breton. This is the first of a number of short videos that I've pre-recorded to share the preliminary results of a research project I've been working on for the past couple of years, with funding provided by CIHR through a Shared Future research initiative. In this presentation, I will provide details about this project, a kind of action research case study of the Bredora Lakes Collaborative Environmental Planning Initiative. But first, I want to provide some background and contextual information about A Shared Future, myself, and the people who have worked with me on this project. Then I will describe the CEPI project objectives and the research process that we followed to gather, analyze, interpret, and summarize the data for you. At the end of this presentation, I will outline the schedule of additional videos in this short knowledge sharing series and will outline the schedule of virtual meetings that we will use to coordinate in lieu of live in-person workshops, which we had planned to deliver before the COVID-19 pandemic. The CEPI research project is one of multiple research projects that have been coordinated through the A Shared Future research program, or under the banner of the A Shared Future. A Shared Future is an acronym for Achieving Strength, Health, and Autonomy through Renewable Energy Development for the Future. It is a CIHR-funded program of research that explores Indigenous-led intersectoral partnerships and collaborative approaches to managing and responding to land-human health, Indigenous energy sovereignty, and relationships. It consists of 9 or more projects that focus on understanding and promoting reconciliation between Indigenous peoples in Canada and Canadians. The A Shared Future program of research, like the CEPI, is a collaborative and interdisciplinary group of Indigenous peoples and Canadians who strive to employ two-eyed seeing throughout the planning and delivery of our projects. In this way, we're doing what we're researching. Each of the projects is co-led by a university researcher alongside a community-based partner researcher. As a larger group, we make efforts to share our learnings in local communities as well as across disciplines by meeting and sharing our progress with one another multiple times a year. For more information about the A Shared Future projects, check out the website www.asharedfuture.ca. This is also where we hope to post the CEPI knowledge sharing series of videos. The connections between CBU and A Shared Future Group and the Bredora CEPI were made well before I became involved. But I'm happy to be following through on commitments that were made by two-eyed researchers that brought me onto this project, including Cheryl Bartlett, Ashley Consolo, Emily Root, and other localized relationships. The Bredora CEPI is an intersectoral discussion table and a working group that focuses on various policy and administrative concerns related to the management of the Bredora Lakes watershed. The CEPI has been of interest to this group of researchers because we believe it can help us and others to understand the possibilities, pitfalls, and complexities of implementing Etowoptimunk two-eyed seeing within a long-term intersectoral partnership that's focused on human land health. We hope that by understanding the challenges and opportunities associated with applied Etowoptimunk two-eyed seeing, we can contribute to the emerging reconciliation dialogues among Canada and Indigenous peoples. This project has become an excellent fit for me since my research interests are in organizational governance, two-eyed seeing, and reconciliation. It's been a wonderful opportunity to work with two collaborative groups, the Bredora CEPI and the A Shared Future program. Because they both have chosen to focus on applying Etowoptimunk two-eyed seeing throughout their organizing processes. Throughout these videos, I will be referring to the work that we have done thus far. And in this context, I'm typically using we inclusively to recognize all of the people who have contributed to and supported this research to date. The current team who are working with me include Lisa Young and Stan Johnson, the community co-leads, Carolyn Barber, who's a CEPI project manager, and student researchers Tanisha Tanisha Sack, Shania Vance, and Trinity Nicholas, as well, obviously, as Elder Advisor Albert Marshall. Okay, now that I've provided some context, the intention for the remainder of this video and the remaining videos in this series is to discuss the preliminary results from the phase 1 of the Burdor CEPI research project. As we've outlined on this slide, the purpose of the first phase has been to explore retrospective and current stories of two-eyed seeing in the CEPI to better understand the possibilities, pitfalls, and complexities of implementing a two-eyed seeing approach throughout a relatively long-term intersectoral partnership. A key goal for this phase of the project, as recommended by the CEPI Advisory Group, is to foster personal and collective reflection by CEPI members about their and our current capacity and commitment to understand and employ two-eyed seeing in the CEPI forum. The project aims to strengthen and renew two-eyed seeing within the CEPI using an appreciative approach that invites relational and respectful co-learning. In the initial phases of the project, we gathered secondary data relating to the CEPI, which we compiled into a document archive. The assembled collection of historical documents that we included in this literature review includes published academic works concerning two-eyed seeing, the Burdor Lakes, and the watershed ecological management, meeting minutes, conference programs, proceedings, videos, and other official documents produced by the CEPI over the years. And later, it also included any documents that we were provided by or referenced during interviews. For example, the conference programs and proceedings and proposals from significant events that predate CEPI. Based on this initial information and some preliminary discussions, we then drafted an interview guide and submitted ethics approval applications to the Research Ethics Board at CBU and the Mi'kmaq Ethics Watch. Once the background and research and literature review were complete, we then began scheduling primary data collection. In this case, we conducted 21 face-to-face semi-structured conversational interviews with knowledge holders, people who had been involved with the CEPI in the past and presently. We made efforts to ensure that there was a diversity of perspectives, and we ensured that we had representation from senior council members, federal, provincial, and municipal First Nation governments, other tenured members of the CEPI Steering Committee, past and present, the Management Committee, working group members, CEPI youth, elders, men and women, and Mi'kmaq and non-Mi'kmaq peoples. All the interviews were transcribed by student research assistants to be analyzed by the research team. Okay, so how did we analyze and interpret the data? Well, we developed some preliminary codes that collaboratively we did this with the bigger research team, which included discussions with Heather Castleton from A Shared Future, from the A Shared Future Programmatic Steering Committee, and Stan Johnson and Lisa Young, the community co-leads. Through these discussions, we identified and refined some recurring themes that were relevant to the A Shared Future program and the administration of the Burdor CEPI. For example, two-eyed seeing was a theme that was common to both. Carolyn and I then did a detailed thematic analysis of the interviews. All of the interview transcripts were coded using qualitative analysis software Atlas TI, and a total of 28 codes emerged and seemed relevant to our research questions. Although 28 codes were developed, we determined that some codes were major and encompassing, while others were organized as subcodes or subthemes. Again, for example, two-eyed seeing was determined to be a major code because it was discussed in depth. It was an important part of the initial research design, and most importantly, it was not used or defined consistently among the interviewees. In comparison to two-eyed seeing, the identity theme, which we didn't ask specifically about, also emerged as an important point that we think the CEPI members would benefit from discussing in detail. And so that brings us to our current position in the process, the initial knowledge sharing phase. As a research team, we've been considering the possibilities, pitfalls, and complexities of implementing Etowaptimunk two-eyed seeing within the CEPI, listed here as our research design and objective 1. Now, we want to share some of our thoughts with you to engage in reflexive co-learning and discussion about the themes, which was our second objective. And so you can see where we are fitting in the process here with knowledge sharing and doing the research overview and status update in this current video. So I'm sure at this point you're starting to wonder what the knowledge sharing will look like during the current pandemic. We spent a lot of time thinking about this too. So we're going to record with approval and guidance from the CEPI Management Committee. We opted to summarize the results into 6 short 15-minute, approximately 15-minute pre-recorded video presentations like this one you're watching now. We are then posting these videos for you to review to the A Shared Future website, and we will be hosting weekly Zoom meetings, approximately 1 hour each, to discuss your thoughts and reflections about the information we presented. We then hope to integrate your reflections into our final report, which will be compiled and finalized in the winter of 2021. We've summarized the results to align with 6 of the major thematic codes. For each of these themes, we will explain why we feel it's important for the CEPI members to discuss, and we will describe how it's organized. Then we'll provide references for the interviews, quotes that help to demonstrate and highlight salient points, and then in each presentation, it will end with a group of reflection questions that we'd like to discuss with you. For example, the first theme we'll present is related to the concept of time and history of the CEPI. In this presentation, we will talk about the official and unofficial elements of the CEPI's past that continue to influence our understandings of CEPI purpose today and in the future. We'll be asking the question, how does the past influence our present and future goals? The other themes we will discuss, for example, include the CEPI organizational identity and relationships that the CEPI organization is accountable to. And in the third presentation, we'll then encourage everyone to think about our individual identities and the relationships we have with the CEPI and the Brador and the other members in the group. This is important because we all wear many hats, and inevitably they influence the way we interact with others. It also influences how we understand our role and the role of others around the table. In the fourth presentation, we will then talk about Etuaptimunk two-eyed seeing. This was a central topic of interest for the initial motivation it was a central topic of interest and the initial motivation for the research. And although everyone would agree it has importance to the CEPI, there's many different ways in which this concept continues to be a point of tension in conversations. We believe this stems from various ways in which two-eyed seeing is defined and understood. We want to highlight this before we begin to move forward with the last 2 topics, the governance structure of the CEPI and the work of the CEPI. In this conversation, we'll be referring to past and present priorities of the CEPI and hope that it will help to clarify what the future endeavors of the CEPI might look like. And so here we are providing a schedule of events that lists the 6 topics and when we will be discussing them live. We ask you to please contact Carolyn Barber by email to register for the Zoom sessions, all or part of them. And Carolyn can also answer any questions you might have about the process. Likewise, you can always contact myself, Mary Beth Doucette at cbu.ca. We hope to see you soon.